Welcome back to the Go to Go podcast, man. Episode 63, week 9 of the NFL season. And we're also 1 week in to the NBA regular season as well, man. This week, I got a couple hot or not for you, and then you're going to hit me with your in and out playoff contenders, potential playoff teams. I'll let you know if I think they're in or out. And then week 9 pick'ems, man. As always, this week I went 8-8. You went 11-5. You got a 5-game lead, 74 wins. I'm sitting at 69 on the year, man. But we'll bounce back. We're straight. I'm gonna hit you with a few hot or nots this week. Started off hot or not. After the Kirk Cousins injury, Justin Jefferson should sit out the rest of the year.
Oh, that's not a hot take. Realistically, now will it happen? Probably not. It's also his contract year, so after the injury, I mean, it's not much that Justin Jefferson has left to prove in terms of being a good receiver or one of the best receivers in the game. So I could definitely see the Vikings trying to shut him down for the rest of the season, but I think Jefferson he doesn't seem to be one of those guys that is oh, I'm going to sit out, I'm not going to play. I figure if he's healthy enough, he's going to want to get out there. He's going to want to compete. And I personally, this is a Madden franchise, or if I'm a GM, I control everything. Yeah, sit him. You don't want to risk another injury or whatever. I believe it was a hamstring. That's a super easy injury to re-aggravate or whatever. So I could see why you would want to, but I think he's back out there once they take him off IR. He wants to compete. He's one of, if not the best receiver in the league when healthy, and when you're the best of the best, you want to go out there, you want to compete, you want to continue to prove yourself. So I think that's a hot take. I don't think they shut him down.
Next one up, hot or not, the Bengals are back.
That's not a hot take, man. I mean, you saw it against the 49ers team, who it's every week we say one of the best defenses, but so far these last 3 games they've lost. The defense hasn't been, up to par. Pass rush hasn't been as good. Nick Bosa, former defensive player of the year, hasn't been producing on that level. So they got some questions, and we'll talk about, maybe the addition or whatever, the big move they made, free agency. But regardless, Joe Burrow looked fully healthy, was able to get, out there on the run, had that big play where he broke 3 sacks in the pocket, rolls out to his right, calf looked fine, putting the ball right where he wanted to. Him and Chase back on track. That connection looks like, last year when they were tearing up the league. So I think Joe Burrow's back. He's fully healthy. Even had a couple nice big runs. It looked like he audible to a quarterback draw on 39. So, I mean, if you're audibling to quarterback draws, that's just telling me that you're feeling fully healthy. So I think as long as Joe Burrow is fully healthy, and if Burrow's back, then the Bengals are back. So from what I saw in that 49ers game, I think they're good. I think they're back.
Last one up for you, hot or not, Will Levis will finish as Rookie of the Year.
That's a hot take. Now, I know he had a big game, 4 touchdowns, found DeAndre Hopkins, I think, for 3 of them, I'm not mistaken. So, yeah. A big first performance, a lot of splash plays. Now, he didn't have a super efficient play, and it wasn't every single play was perfect or anything like that. No, he's still a rookie. He's still learning. But I think the biggest thing right now hindering him is his first start was week 7, week 8. So yeah, week 8, literally halfway through the season. If you're going Rookie of the Year, with only 8 games, you got to be on some legendary shit, some never before seen type shit, dog. And I think Will Levis has the potential to be a decent quarterback in this league, but Rookie of the Year, especially from what we've seen so far from CJ Stroud, especially how he hasn't had any crazy explosive game. I don't think he's had a 4 touchdown pass game like Will Levis so far, but the consistency he's been playing with throughout, since week 1, I think is far more, favorable in terms of awards, especially considering, the position quarterbacks. I mean, you got rookies Jordan Addison's had a couple really, really big games, guys like that. Bijan Robinson's been productive when he's, given the opportunity on the field. So I think those are a couple guys that might be ahead of him. But right now, I think CJ Stroud is pretty much a log in terms of, consistency and having an entire season of production instead of just 8. And it might not even be 8 because Vrabel came out and was like, we might not even go with that route. Will Levis, I don't even think they named Levis as a starter yet for a Thursday night game. And today's Wednesday? Like tomorrow? I don't know. So you might see a Tannehill resurgence. Malik Willis, is there still hope there? I don't know, but I think it should be.
3 quarterbacks are active right now. What?
It should be Will Levis, but who knows, man. But yeah, that's a hot take.
Stroud has not tossed for more than 2 touchdowns this season in a game. But yeah, I get where you're coming from, and that's gonna wrap up my hot or nots for Week 9.
All right, so mine's basically hot or not, but just a little spin on it, in or out. There's a couple of teams, just want to see how you feeling them. Are they contenders or not? Are they in the playoffs or not? So I'm gonna start it off with the San Francisco 49ers coming off a 3-game losing streak. They got to bye this week. Do you think the 49ers are in or out?
I think they're gonna be in, man. First off, in the NFC, especially in that NFC West. Right now, I think they're still in the lead. If not,
they're second.
They're behind the Seahawks. So they're 1 game behind the Seahawks. Regardless from the fact, I think they're still in the wild card right now. You're coming off, a week where Purdy had his worst career game in the Browns. And then he didn't really pick it up after that. They had some injuries. CMC was dealing with some things. Debo, Trent Williams was out last game. Regardless of the fact, do I think that they're the top team in the NFC like I did, 7 weeks ago before the season started, 9 weeks, whatever? Probably not, but to say they're out of the playoffs and they won't even get a wild card spot, I still think they're in.
All right, second team is led by your offensive rookie of the year, Tennessee Titans. They in or out?
I'm going to have to go out, man. Even with Will Levis balling this week, the Tennessee Titans, I've watched, they played the Browns this year. That was horrible team. Derrick Henry, he's still there. He didn't get dealt during the deadline. So, they still got their all-pro running back and franchise running back and Derrick Henry. But there's really nothing on this team that wows you. Will Levis, the rookie QB, he wowed you last week for the first time. Do I think he could do it all season long? No, he's still a rookie, like you mentioned. And in an AFC that is so deep and so many good teams, it would be hard. I know they're in the South, but I still don't see them pulling away or even catching up to the Jags right now. I know the Jags have had some ugly games themselves, but the Titans, they're the ugliest I think there is for a team that's somewhat decent,
Yeah.
So they're out on my list.
All right. Third team I got is Cincinnati Bengals.
They're out on my list as well. You knew that answer was coming. Joe Burrow looked good last week. That connection with Chase you mentioned. Joe Mixon finally had a game where he looked like Joe Mixon, maybe turning back the clock to 3 years ago. But right now I don't see it. There's 3 teams in the AFC North that could potentially make it. And I think the Bengals, if they do, they would grab that last wild card spot. That would be their spot. Or maybe even the Browns. One of those teams got to be out. And I think, I'm not going to say the Browns are out, so it's going to have to be the Bengals for me. Just a little bias. But they look good. That defense still shaky at times, inconsistent pass rush on their end. They really don't get a lot of pressure. DBs back there just fighting for their lives, having to cover 24/7. That offense is really going to have to go back to, last year. And they look like they did last week, but I want to see a little bit of consistency from them. Just like any team in the NFL, you kind of want to see. They did it 1 week. Can they do it, 3 weeks in a row? I know they've proved it in the past, but this is, new season, different circumstances. So I'm going to go out for this one.
All right, and the last team I got is the Seattle Seahawks. Are they in or out?
Seahawks, man, I got them in. I watched that, game last week. They didn't play great. They didn't play horrible. Browns' best defense in the league. They were able to get some points against them. Short field, they capitalized off some mistakes on the Browns' part. Good coaching in the end from Seattle got them the dub. And, veteran-led quarterback in Geno Smith, who had his breakout year last year, came on. JSN now getting involved in the offense. I mean, DK still a superstar. Tyler Lockett, Mr. Reliable on a deep ball and, possession catches. He's there. Kenneth Walker, an absolute monster in the backfield. So, and then Zach Charbonnet, or however you pronounce it, I mean, he had a solid game. Nice little 1-2 punch in the backfield. The defense might have some things to clean up, but I think they're good enough to make that playoff spot, especially if they win that division and get a home game. Maybe they get one in the playoffs as well. 12th man is a dangerous place to play, man. Not easy, especially you get into the winter time when the weather is going to be absolutely insane. So if they win that division, I mean, I think they can make the playoffs. The question is, will they win the division is my thing, but...
All right, yeah, that was all the teams, but I literally just thought of another one. So this is not team related, but you were just talking about some good coaching from the Seahawks. So in or out, Kevin Stefanski is the Browns head coach.
So
great decision making down the stretch, by the way.
Yeah, the fact is, Kevin Stefanski called his best game last week. I know 3rd and 3, throwing with the backup QB. Run the football. I get that part, bro. That was definitely a mistake. But the whole game, I mean, he led this Browns offense. He was the reason. It wasn't P.J. Walker. Of course, the players had to make plays, but, I mean, there was some unique play calling that got the guys in space. It was like a little fake. They brought in DTR. They did a little fake read option and then threw a little shovel to David Njoku, and he went up the field for 30 yards. I mean, a lot of their offense was big play. It wasn't them, it was either a handoff, kind of moved the chains, or it was a big hit 25 yards downfield. And it was just the playmakers making plays, and Kevin Stefanski finally calling a really great game. I'll give him credit for that at 3rd and 3. Horrible, horrible, horrible. At the worst case scenario, you punt the ball, make them go the length of the field, maybe kick a field goal.
Yeah, because the second half, that Seahawks offense just died, and that Browns defense was definitely turning up. So, I mean, at that point.
And then you give it, instead of them having to go 35 yards for a field goal, they got to go, they probably would have had to go 45 yards for a field goal. They only got to go 40 yards for a touchdown. And that's just unfortunately what happened. 3rd-string quarterback, really don't like the call. But I'm always shitting on this dude. He finally called a really good game.
So there's some light at the end of the tunnel for
Kevin Stefanski. Who knows,
Coach of the year, Kevin Stefanski.
I wouldn't say that because Joe Woods also...
he won it, didn't he?
Yeah, he did, 3 years ago.
There you go, Coach of the year. Stamped on his resume.
Anyways, Joe Woods in the playoffs against the Chiefs called his best defensive game as the coordinator. They kept him for another year, and look what happened. Now Jim Schwartz changed this defense into what they should have been, but maybe that's the same thing with Stefanski. I don't know. Right now he's dealing with the tough deck of cards on the offensive end. Just want to see him be
in or out on Deshaun Watson's contract.
In. Everyone's panicking. Everyone's running like Deshaun Watson doesn't want to play football. What, you think this guy's just gonna sit on the bench, be around, and what? Just sit there for 3 years, not play football, collect millions of dollars? It sounds nice, bro, but he spent his whole life getting the point of playing professional football, winning a Super Bowl as a kid. That's what you dream of when you put on, any sport. You go out on that field as a kid, you're like, man, I want to go win the World Series. I want to be on top of the world. I want to see the confetti drop, champagne getting sprayed around. So, of course, the money's nice, yeah. Who's complaining about millions of dollars? But for him not wanting to go back out and play, I just don't buy it. Deshaun Watson, he is a competitor. He is playing, or was hurt. That's why he's not playing. He threw today in practice. The backup was about to come out in front of him, and he was like, nah, let me get some more reps in. He was limited.
So is his shoulder good or not?
That I don't know, bro.
Like,
I mean, his injury, I don't know, bro. I'm not a sports MD, but
not playing, but now he's taking all the reps in practice. Like,
no, I mean it was like the warm up throws, but he was limited, bro. He wasn't a full participant.
well, we'll see.
But I don't know about that shoulder, man. Well, I guess we'll see. But
I think the Browns should have traded for Josh Dobbs.
Hell no,
bring him back, man.
I wouldn't have been mad they got Brissett, but
over PJ Walker.
Anyways, I mean, come on, dude.
Come on, Dobbs is better than PJ Walker right now.
Literally half the NFL, bro. He wasn't on a roster 4 weeks ago, like.
Okay, so if you bring in Dobbs, who's been a competent starter in Arizona, they've been competitive in all their losses. Like with this Browns roster,
he did not look confident. I'll tell you what.
Well, he's looked a little worse, but when he had a solid running game with James Conner before he went down, and
no, he has looked solid. But
that Arizona defense,
it would only make sense.
I don't know who they're gonna stop. So like, give him the ball in plus territory a couple times. Like he already knows the Browns playbook and everything. So just let Watson get fully healthy. Have Josh Dobbs run the offense.
I mean, at this point, they're just sticking it out. Hopefully, Deshaun comes back after this week in Arizona.
Dobbs revenge game. Oh no,
he's not even on
Minnesota
team.
now. Yeah. Oh, so it's gonna be Kyler.
Speaking of which, no, I don't think he's playing this week. I think he's sitting out one more.
Oh, so they started putting Clayton Tune.
Yeah, whatever his name is, but that's gonna lead us to trades. Trade deadline happened, Tuesday at 4:00. Man, some trades went down around the league, including Josh Dobbs to the Vikings. Kirk Cousins out for the season with the Achilles injury, man. I mean, I asked you about Justin Jefferson, but getting, a guy who was capable in those first few weeks, solid run game, now has more weapons surrounded with him. Do you think the Vikings have a chance? I mean, the NFC North right now is looking weak other than the Detroit Lions, but do you still think they have a chance, wild card, anything?
I would say they still do, just because of the NFC and how like top loaded it is. Outside of the first like 4 or 5 couple teams that seem to be locks right now. Listen, man, that's 7th, especially them adding that extra playoff spot, that 6th, 7th seed. Like, who knows what it could end up being? Like, are we going to get 2 teams for the NFC South? Like, you don't even believe in one, but one has to, get a spot. So, like you mentioned, the NFC North, I mean, looks like the Packers played their best game week 1 and just gotten worse ever since. Chicago Bears, Justin Fields, how is his health? That Bears defense, I mean, got not arguably their best player requesting a trade, not getting traded. So how happy is he? How happy, what is that defense going to look like? Outside of DJ Moore, really nothing else positive going on for the Chicago Bears outside of that injury. And the Lions are looking solid. So listen, if Dobbs, he's a worse version of Kirk Cousins, like game manager. You want him to sit in the pocket and just, feed the weapons they have. And I think Josh Dobbs is going to be able to do that. Now, defensively, they've been kind of average at best. Kind of just is what it is at this point. That, blitz heavy Brian Flores scheme. As a Dolphins fan, you know all about that. So they'll be sending a lot of pressure. That's one thing. So maybe they create a couple extra turnovers, get the ball in plus field position, like I just mentioned for Dobbs. And I think Josh Dobbs has definitely been good enough. The only thing I'll worry about is once he lost James Conner, he kind of looked, worse, not able to lean on that run game. The Vikings are just probably the worst rushing team in the league this year. I don't think it's week 9. They still haven't had a rushing touchdown. Like Alex Madison wasn't getting it done. They bring in Cam Akers, who looks like a little bit more explosive. He looks okay, but he's not moving the needle at all. So still some questions on that in that run game. Now, Dobbs definitely has better weapons to rely on the outside, especially when Jefferson comes back with Hawkinson at tight end. So I think the Vikings are if Kirk was still healthy, they'd be like in a prime spot, to make a playoff push. Kind of like opposite to what they were last year, where last year they were just like getting like, I'm not gonna say lucky, but like the ball was rolling their way. They were winning all these one-score games. Like how good are they really? To whereas this year, not winning all them one-score games, but these games they have won have been like really good wins. They beat the 49ers, kind of get momentum, and they look like they got hot at the right time. So, taking out Kirk is a big, big blow. Quarterback play just hasn't been as good this year, all around the league. A bunch of backups, a bunch of guys playing who just, don't really need to be playing NFL football. So, Dobbs, I think, they're in a weird spot, like I just said, man. It could go either way. As a Vikings fan, I'd be hopeful that, if you want a playoff spot, that 6 or 7 seed definitely could be in play. But if you want to just, say Kirk's out, we really have no chance, pack it up, let's try to play for a draft pick. Like, I think that's still a possibility too, but it's the NFL, not the NBA, so I doubt like tanking goes on. And yeah, I definitely think they could make the 6 or 7 seed. That's definitely a possibility.
All right. Few other trades going down across the league. Leonard Williams, on his way from the Giants over there to Seattle, kind of beefing up that defense we just talked about. They've been looking a little suspect. They get that D-line help. Not a bad, pretty even trade, I'd say, for both sides. I think the Seahawks gave up a second round in 2024 and a fifth in 2025, and I think they got a return pick as well, or maybe not. They didn't, but regardless of the fact, man, this is a first-round pick back in 2015. Get that veteran presence on the D-line. Something they really lacked was, that front seven. They kind of helped that out a little bit, but I thought it was a decent deal for the Seahawks. Their struggles all on defense, so they kind of address a little need. I mean, I don't know if you have much thoughts on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it's a decent move, especially for the Seahawks, a team we just mentioned in first place in their division right now, a game above the Niners, who are clearly trying to go all in and trying to compete right now. So I get it. It's a decent move. Leonard Williams, definitely on the back end of his career in terms of, age and production, but I think he can still, add value to, like you mentioned, the Seahawks defensive line, front seven, who's kind of depleted right now. All their talent is pretty much, on the boundaries, with, Witherspoon being a really, really good rookie, and Tariq Woolen, who broke out last year as a rookie. So they got some talent. Bobby Wagner's back. So there's some names there. They got, some talent, and I think Leonard Williams is just another name that will help this Seattle's D-line. Now, I doesn't think, they're not like contenders, number one team in the league right now because they signed Leonard Williams, but I definitely think it's a step in the right direction, especially for, if they feel like, number one in their division, like I just mentioned, they feel like they can contend right now. I don't hate it. Second round pick, though, is a little high for the Giants. I like it. I mean, they need all the draft capital they could get right now, man. So I like the trade for both teams.
Then obviously the Commanders probably made the biggest splash as sellers trading away their D-line. Montez Sweat first, second to the Bears, which was a little confusing. I know I'm not the only one. The Bears clearly, they're not contenders this year, so they want to get a deal done with Sweat. But reports came out that said he wanted to go to Atlanta, back home, and the Falcons were about to get a deal done, but the Bears had a higher pick, so they went with the Bears and sent him over there. But so, I mean, they just got to get a deal done. Otherwise, that trade just means nothing.
Yeah, I didn't hear that report, but I did know he was on an expiring contract. And if you're the Bears, like, I mean, what value do you have to keep him long term? Is it like the Bears? I don't get what the Bears are trying to do. It's like you have Roquan Smith.
Mm-hmm. Paid him.
Was at the time was looking like the best linebacker, arguably top 2, top 3 or whatever. Didn't want to pay him. Person you drafted, ship him off. Okay, that's cool. You draft Jalen Johnson, I think in the second or third round. He's become one of the, a really, really good young corner. Now, he doesn't want to be there. You're looking to ship him off, can't get a deal done. He doesn't want to be there. You're probably not going to pay him. It's like, okay, yeah, we'll pay someone else from a different organization. We don't know how he is. Not speaking on, Montez Sweat. I don't know him personally, but, during the draft process, had character concerns. That's why he slid in the first round. So now he doesn't even want to be there. Like, I just don't understand. Like, you plan on paying him? Like, what's going on here? Wouldn't you rather pay, like, the homegrown talent, the people that you've seen produce for your team, instead of, like, a question mark, a former, I think he was a first-round pick. Or
Sweat?
Yeah.
He was
early,
late first.
I think,
early
yeah.
second.
But I know he slid in the draft with character concerns, but you would rather pay somebody like that you have a question mark in your organization that has an expiring contract, like who don't even want to be there, other than somebody you drafted, you develop, you work with them every single day, and you know how they are. Like, I don't know. I just don't understand what the Bears are doing right now, and I just think they need to just a complete overhaul, just from top to bottom in terms of like organization, coaching staff, everything. Because listen, they got some talent on their roster. Like, it could be going in the right direction. It's just unfortunate what the Bears have gone through these past couple of seasons.
Yeah, I didn't get it either. I was like, oh, Sweat for a third. Where'd he go? And then they're like, the Bears.
For a second, not a third.
Yeah, for a second. My bad.
Yeah.
I was talking about his counterpart,
Yeah.
Chase Young, in which I think the 49ers kind of got a steal for. Third round pick, still really young. Has he hit his ceiling yet? We don't know. This is a former second overall pick in the draft. I think he was just drafted behind Joe Burrow.
Yep.
So in a class where there's not a for sure, quarterback, Chase Young could have ended up going first overall, regardless of the fact. A third round pick, the 49ers, you mentioned Bosa slowing down. Now you got Chase Young on the opposite side, and you got your boy Javon Hargrave on that D-line. Now you're just like looking at that front. You got Fred Warner behind him, and then you got, what's his name?
Dre Greenlaw.
Yep. And that front seven, I don't care who the other D tackle is. Or you go nickel package, it doesn't matter. That Chase Young third round pick, I don't know if anyone else was offering a third round pick, but sheesh. I think the Niners got a good deal done.
Now you see how this is a good deal compared to the Montez Sweat. Like, if you literally would have like just flipped the teams in picks, like, we'd be saying the same exact thing. Like, if it was Montez Sweat
for a second to the Niners,
a second to the Niners, yeah, or shit, keep the picks, even a third to the Niners, we saying this is the better pick, all because of the situation and the teams and the history these teams have and the team needs. Like, it just shows that how organizations are kind of viewed throughout the NFL from the fans and the spectators and stuff. Because if Chase Young went to the Bears for even a fourth round pick, like, yeah, that's great value. You got a great player, but it's like, do he even want to be there? Like, are they gonna pay him? Like, what's going on? And you give up a second for Montez Sweat if you're the Commanders. Not a Commander, excuse me. The Niners, it's like, I could kind of get it. They're contending right now. Joe Burrow just killed them. They need some help up front. They couldn't sack Kirk Cousins when they played the Vikings, so we can understand that move. So I just think, situational awareness for these teams are a very big deal, and clearly some GMs and teams have better awareness of where they stand than others, because I just don't get a Montez Sweat deal at all.
I think Bears fans are wondering what they were doing too, but I know we're not the only ones.
Yeah, if I'm a Bears fan, I'm even more upset, bro. Like, cool, we got Montez Sweat. It's like we give up a second round pick that is gonna be closer to a first than a third round pick. Yep. Let's be real. It's basically like a glorified first round pick. It'll be 2 or 3 picks away from the first round where we stand right now. So that's a valuable pick. And then excuse me, you losing the value on the pick, and then like you mentioned, do he even want to be there? So we just giving away a second round pick for what, half a season of production? Montez Sweat what gives them a couple of sacks here and there. Let's say maybe they win one game. Now they're getting a worse draft pick. Where if you're the Bears, you want to just like get as much draft capital as possible right now. You're trying to rebuild. You want to bring talent in, not kind of let talent walk out the door. And I get it, Montez Sweat, he's really good, but will he even be there? Does he even resign? Who could you have possibly gotten with that second round pick? Just a lot of question marks. I think, the value of return has a lot more questions than it does answers for me for the Bears. So that's why I'm kind of like, what are we doing here? And if I was a fan, I'd definitely be like, what are we doing? Because at this point, we just trying to get better for the future. Because this season, you're not gonna win anything. So why are we kind of like making a win now move when we should be in a build for the future mindset? I just be confused.
No doubt, man. Another trade that went down, not really headline breaker. DPJ, Donovan Peoples-Jones, to the Lions for a 6th round pick, which the Browns selected him with the 6th round pick, and a guy who during his time in Cleveland years past, always solid, always, good contested ball catcher. This year, his role diminished in that receiving core, really doesn't create separation. He's not the deep threat guy. They got some young talent, David Bell. They signed Goodwin this year for the deep threat. Goes back to Michigan, his home state, to play for the Lions, and the Lions needed help after Marvin Jones, left indefinitely to go take care of personal reasons. And for that, they get a receiver with decent size, kind of like similar to Marvin Jones in the contested catch area. So I like it. They give up a 6th round pick. DPJ also on a contract year, so the Browns, they get some return and a guy that was going to probably just walk in free agency anyways. So I like that trade as a Browns fan. I don't see it like DPJ a lot. Kind of sad to see him go. Had some big moments for us, but it is just the right move.
Yeah, I think you pretty much touched on everything. But I think it'll be a nice change of scenery for DPJ. Mm-hmm. Like you mentioned, the Lions need a little receiver help, and I believe it's a homecoming for him as well. Michigan kid, I believe he's from the Detroit area as well. Play high school ball there, so that'd be nice for him. Kind of a familiar setting. So, like you mentioned, they picked him with the 6th round pick. So I think on both parts, it kind of fits. It was even fair trade, so I like that trade as well.
And then the last one, the Bills acquire Rasul Douglas from the Packers. I think it was a 3rd round pick, maybe a 2nd.
I think a 3rd.
I think there was, 5th. Oh no, they sent Rasul Douglas and a 5th rounder to the Bills, and then a 3rd went back to the Pack. So I think that's Trey White going down. 2nd year in a row, season-ending injury. They really need help at that corner position. They've been struggling on the boundaries. They get a corner in Rasul Douglas, who, not as old as Trey White. Still a couple years in the league. Had some big moments for the Pack as well. They get a corner in a position that they really need help with, especially after the number 1 goes down. So I like the trade. The Packers, they get a 3rd round pick. They give up a 5th. I like that exchange, but not a bad deal for the Bills. They got to pick back as well. I know it's a 5th, but at least you got some good return to go with that trade, as well as Douglas.
Yeah. Now as an Eagles fan, being the team that drafted Rasul Douglas, I have a little bias in terms of that he wasn't that good at all for us. So. I'm not the biggest Rasul Douglas fan, but I can acknowledge he's been playing better football as of late. Had a stint with the Panthers, but really on the Packers, playing alongside Jair Alexander, like you mentioned, made a couple big plays for them. So for the Bills, I understand it. It fills a need. Kaiir Elam hasn't been playing the best. That Bills defense has been super, super banged up. So, it's nice to bring in a veteran who has some experience. So I understand it. It fills a need. And the Packers, like we mentioned, just get as much draft value as you can, because it's not looking too good for them, man. Not looking too good.
Yeah, man. that's gonna wrap up my trade talk. I don't know if you got anything
Pretty much
else.
covered all the big stuff that happened.
Yeah, no doubt.
Kevin Byard's still looking like the best trade, man.
We talked about that last week. You want to cover it again? I mean, we'll see. We'll see when a few weeks in. We'll see what happens. But it's gonna take us to the Week 9 pick'ems, man, and once again, Thursday night football. The NFL loves to do this to us. Another excellent one we got on our hands, man. Titans traveling to Pittsburgh to play the Steelers, and the Steelers last week they looked horrible. You mentioned who's the starter for Tennessee. Maybe that's a good thing. The Steelers don't know who to prepare for at this point. Just give me the Titans on the road. Yeah.
Now, last week I picked the Steelers. They lost to the Jags, like you mentioned. It's been rough watching the Steelers offense at all. Kenny Pickett went down with the injury. Najee's looked a little better. Jalen Warren, he's serviceable out of the backfield. Pickens and Deontay moving along, a decent receiving duo. But this Steelers defense is really where they're going to have to win this game. And I was wrong last week. I should have picked the Jags. That was a good setup. But listen, man, this season the Steelers are like my ultimate trap team, bro. They did it to the Ravens when, coming off of that big game. Or I think they had the Ravens or whatever. The Ravens were the better team. Everyone's going in. I think even you picked the Ravens. I like the Ravens against the Steelers. The Steelers I think they were coming off of a tough loss. And the Steelers just ended up beating them. I was like, this is exactly how they play AFC North football. It's going to be an ugly game. This is another just perfect setup for the Steelers to win this game. It's going to be 12-7, bro, or some ugly score like that. The Steelers defense does enough against, like you mentioned, maybe a rookie quarterback, maybe Ryan Tannehill, who's probably on the skill level of a rookie quarterback at this point in his career. So offensively, I don't think the Titans offer, enough of a threat if you're able to shut down Derrick Henry in that run game. Is Will Levis going to be consistent? Will he be, as comfortable when he has TJ Watt coming off the edge instead of, I don't know who's the best Falcons pass rusher? Is Calais Campbell still there? In his 15th year in the league?
What's his name?
Grady Jarrett, who just went out for the season, messed up his knee. I think he tore his ACL.
What was that Falcons pass rusher?
Bud Dupree? He's on the Steelers now.
The one that won the sack title that one year, they went to the Super Bowl, and he's washed now. He played for the Browns.
Vic Beasley?
Yes.
Who had that one good season of he had 16 sacks.
16, yeah.
Vic Beasley, yeah.
Oh, no. Will Levis is starting, bro.
There you go. Will Levis. It's his show.
Expected. I don't know.
Yeah. On the road, not home this game. That Steelers environment is going to be tough for your first home game on prime time. Everyone's going to be watching. Everyone's talking about how great Will Levis played. Maybe he comes back down to earth a little bit. This Steelers defense, TJ Watt on prime time, this is the lover boy for these Steelers fans. I think the Steelers do just enough on defense. Because on offense, they're not going to do enough. I don't think they'll ever do enough on offense. But on defense this week, I think they can do just enough at home on a short week. They squeak out a win by it's going to be an ugly score, bro. Like I mentioned, it's some stupid score.
Ravens, Steelers, week 5. We both picked the Steelers, but yeah. You were right. Oh, I mean, the whole talk is obviously Will Levis, Mayo guy, eats banana peel. Yeah. He's playing with a chip on his shoulder. His girl and him broke up, the baddie from the draft, man. I mean, he playing with a little chip. Micah Parsons talked about, when there's a baddie in the stands, you play better. Well, I think you play even better coming off breakups. So, I mean, he playing with a little chip on his shoulder. Getting it done in the Steel City, man.
We'll see. I mean, it'll be a bad game. I'll be watching, that's for sure.
13-10, team lucky to get 17.
Yeah, and they'll probably be
defensive
6
touchdown?
Offensive points scored between the both of them.
Matt Canada cannot get out coached by a rookie quarterback. It's gonna be tough, but Either way, man, moving on. It's a game that's going to be way more exciting. Hopefully, the two juggernauts in the AFC, I would say, Dolphins on the quote-unquote road, head to Frankfurt, Germany to play the Kansas City Chiefs, man. And, I mean, Tyreek Hill revenge game. I mean, they came out and said, he don't want to leave KC. Just, all those people you got to pay. And Tyreek Hill, he got the short end of the stick. So he went out and left Miami's new home. Now, leading receiver in the NFL, going to break the record, fastest through 8 weeks to hit 1,000+ yards. So he's the best version of Tyreek Hill, stat-wise in his career. Now, getting closer to his 30s, but playing the Chiefs, man, you saw them last week. They didn't look good whatsoever. I mean, 9 points against the Denver Broncos. I mean, it was a divisional matchup. You talk about how those can get chippy, how those are always, it's hard to take 2 from every team in your division.
Mm-hmm.
You play them twice, but the Dolphins, man, Chiefs coming off that game. T. Swift not going to be in the stands. Kelsey don't got the extra motivation. Fins up, man. Tua has a little legacy game in Europe, and his jersey sales skyrocket.
This was a very tough game for me to pick because I'm basically picking against Patrick Mahomes, best quarterback in the league, which is always going to be difficult. But I just like everything the Dolphins have going on right now for them. Now, y'all know the narrative against the Dolphins playing teams with a winning record, but I think that this is a game where they kind of get back on track, not even back on track. They get on track and get their first win against a team with a winning record this year. So the Dolphins, Jalen Ramsey came back last week, had a nice pick against Mac Jones, who's very prone to throwing those. So it's not saying much, but still really, really nice to see him coming back. I think he might be back for this game, apparently. Coming up. Yeah. So having those two on the outside will really, really be helpful because Patrick Mahomes has no one to throw to. If it's not Travis Kelce, in the middle of the field, working those little option routes, trying to sit in those zones like Sky Moore, he just drops passes. Rashee Rice, he's solid, has potential, but he's still a rookie. He's still learning. He's still developing. MVS, it seems like he can only catch, deep posts for 70-yard touchdowns. That's not reliable. Who else do they have?
KT.
Jarek McKinnon coming out of the backfield. You mentioned Kadarius Toney. So there's just not really much that threatens the Dolphins on the perimeter. So if they have those two guys healthy, that they can just leave on an island, double Kelsey, and just kind of just make Patrick Mahomes very, very uncomfortable, that's going to be the key to success. Christian Wilkins, you mentioned, Jalen Phillips. I saw him against the Dolphins 2 weeks ago. That front seven definitely has some juice, and if they're able to get to Patrick Mahomes and make them uncomfortable, Vic Fangio, he's a veteran coach in this league. He won't have a defense this bad for that long, like you mentioned, injuries and stuff. I think this Dolphins defense is on the rise. It can get really good, at the best time of the season. Now, offensively, that's where I only have the big question mark. It's basically every single game the Dolphins plays. Can they protect Tua? That's the key. Offensive line banged up, and the Chiefs' defense has been solid this year. Chris Jones, he's always going to cause some issues for that front, even if they are fully healthy. George Karlaftis, second year, has some juice as a pass rusher. So you just want to see if Tua can just get to that first read. McDaniel's able to, scheme these guys open. Maybe the run game get going. You kind of saw them get back to it a little bit more in that win against the Patriots after the Eagles shut it down. So I think the Dolphins have the recipe for success. I think it'll be a very, like you mentioned when you first said it, a fun game, one of the best games of the week. I'm going to pick the Dolphins here as well, man. I think the Dolphins get a big statement win, and Patrick Mahomes questions why they didn't go out and trade for a receiver, number one option on the outside, because so far this year, he definitely needs it. It hasn't been Mahomes letting them down. He's been doing all he can. He can't carry everyone by himself like he did last year. 2 years in a row, that's tough.
And Javon Holland also finally cleared concussion protocol. Devon Achane, he's now available to come back off IR. Did hop on that plane to Germany, so we'll see. Even if he doesn't come back this week, Jeff Wilson was back. He was getting some more reps in.
Also,
Mostert, obviously.
I saw the Dolphins are over there already, and I heard the Chiefs aren't going over to Germany till Thursday. And you saw with that Bills and Jags game. The Jags, they were over there already. The Bills went fucking Saturday before the game.
They were like Friday, yeah,
Friday or Saturday, yeah. Just didn't look as good. So that's one thing to keep an eye on.
I mean, bro, you going out to Germany? I know you're going to play football, but I mean, towards the nighttime, relax. I mean, go out, see the city for these guys once in a lifetime. I like getting out there earlier in the week. They got out there today.
Got to acclimate.
Yeah, get acclimated. Go ahead and see the city too. I mean, I know it's the NFL. You're out here grinding for 10, 12 hours in the day. But still, I mean, they got a little downtime to go see some, around the city of Frankfurt, Germany, which I'm not sure where that is in Germany, but
it's somewhere in Germany.
Yeah, it's in between the borders. I'll tell you what. And then David Long's also Dolphins linebacker, highest graded run stopper. Jerome Baker played his best game last week.
Jerome Baker.
And David Long, who we replaced Landon Roberts with, just a much better pass coverage guy, which might come into play this week, Travis Kelce. So it's also nice to have Javon Holland coming back as well to throw at Kelce in different defensive looks. But I'm going to wake up 9 a.m. for some football. It's going to be the first time this year. Vikings-Falcons is the next game up. 1 o'clock window, and that's Sunday. And before we even started the pod, you were like, bro, this might be like the worst week of games ever. And I was like, yeah, I mean, you're not lying. Vikings-Falcons, newly acquired Josh Dobbs. I mean, I guess he's going to start. Like, does he know the offense? I mean, Baker did it on 2 days' notice.
Yeah.
Why can't Josh Dobbs? This is his third offense he's learning this season, so.
It'll be all right. He's a smart guy.
Yeah, shout out.
4.0 was like basically like a space rocket scientist. Aerospace.
I don't know. It was one of those at Tennessee, but he's a smart guy. But I mean, come on, 3 offenses in the NFL in the same it just can't be easy for him. But shout out to Dobbs, man, on the road against the Falcons. Falcons also benched Desmond Ridder.
Yeah, Heineke show.
Taylor Heineke, the GOAT, man. And I just, they pulled up that Chase Young pick, him pointing to Heineke after he won them that playoff game or got him in the playoffs.
Got to the playoffs, yeah.
Yeah,
they lost to the Bucs.
Hey, just give me the Falcons, Bijan, the run game over there, the Vikings. Just give Josh Dobbs a week. I think the Falcons get it done at home.
Yeah, I'm going to pick the Falcons as well. All Taylor Heineke has to do is just not turn the ball over as much as Desmond Ridder, and I think they'll be okay. Give me Falcons.
Another barn burner here. Bears travel to New Orleans to play the Saints. I'm strictly going for the Bears. Justin Fields questionable if he starts. I don't know. I mean, what's his name? I still can't pronounce his name.
Tyson Bagent or whatever?
Yeah. Tyson B, man. He didn't play bad last week. I mean, his team played awful around him. He didn't play the best football either, but, I mean, what do you expect from the kid? Give me the Bears because Derek Carr has made Chris Olave go insane. Unless Alvin Kamara is going for one of those 70-point fantasy performances he had a few years ago. I mean, he's got to basically put that team on his back right now. So just give me the Bears. They sneak one away on the road.
Yeah, I think the Saints win this pretty comfortably at home. They looked a lot better on the road against the Colts last week compared to how they did against the Jags 2 weeks ago in that Thursday night primetime game that everyone watching. So I think the Saints, they also have a pretty solid defense going up against the Bears, like you mentioned. If it's Tyson Bagent or Justin Fields coming off of that injury, not ideal where you want to be at quarterback-wise in the NFL in general. So I think the Saints defense steps up, make some big plays, and just make the game easier for Derek Carr at this point because that's what they got to do. So, yeah, offense for the Saints, show a little bit of life. Like you mentioned, Kamara has been pretty much backpacking that offense. So I think they continue to lean on him. Defense gets a couple big plays, and I think the Saints win this one.
1 o'clock windows. That's what's killing. Rams Packers next game up. I mean, you said the Packers played their best game of the year in week 1. And, I mean, you're probably no doubt right with that. Rams injury to Matt Stafford, a little thumb injury, dislocated. Shout out to my Instagram, SportsMD. He said, lean towards him to play, maybe a little bit of a performance dip. Give him 2 weeks to be back full 100%, but I don't think you need to be 100% against this Packers team. Their offense, we know what it is. It's they get to the red zone. If it's not Aaron Jones, it's Romeo Doubs catching a tutty. They struggle moving the ball down the field, whether it's drops, Jordan Love's, miscues, overthrows, underthrows. It's been tough for the Pack, since the beginning of the year. Rams, they get a big upset on the road. Cooper Kupp, Puka probably playing. And, I mean, in the beginning of the season, we were talking about Tutu Atwell, as being one of the best receivers, those few weeks. So, I mean, they got 3 weapons on the outside. And Pack, they just gave up their number 2 corner. So now they got 3 guys to cover, and Jair can't do it alone. Or Sean Gary, for that matter, rushing off the edge. So, give me the Rams on the road. I think Kyron Williams might be back, too.
Yeah, I'm officially, I'm off the Packers train, man. Coming into the season, I had high hopes for them. I was like, they could finish second in the division, maybe sneak in, make the playoffs. Jordan Love, show some flashes, the past couple years behind Aaron Rodgers. But this season, for sure, I think they just overall don't really have any cohesion offensively and defensively. Man, I mean, they get penalized a lot. It always seems like once they get a positive play, it's like a hold or a late hit or something that's bringing a big play back. It's just tough, man. Like you mentioned, Jordan Love and those receivers haven't been on the same page. That offense just seems to stall out even when they do seem to get a little something going in the red zone. So it's just tough. It's hard to rely on the defense, over and over and over again to make plays and win you this game where the defense hasn't even been, all that to say. So give me the Rams. I just think they're a better team. Now, it's not hard to be a better team than the Packers right now, so that's not saying much. Rams got their own issues, but I think they'll be okay on the road this week against the Packers.
I mean, the Rams play road game every week. We joke about it every week, but they do play a road game every week. So, nothing new for them. Just weather. Next game up, Commanders, Patriots. I mean, it's just getting better and better with the list we go down. Commanders looked pretty decent last week. I mean, they just traded away their whole D-line, but they look pretty good. Jonathan Allen's still there. He said he was sick of that shit.
It's going to be even more.
The other week. Yeah, but, Howell, Dotson, they connected on a few big plays against that suspect Eagles secondary you always talk about. But, I mean, yeah, this one is just Mac Jones. He's pretty bad. Sam Howell, he has no O-line. He's fighting for his life. Coin flip. I'm going against the Patriots. Just give me Washington. I like that. Jahan Dotson finally getting involved. Logan Thomas has been solid for him. Just give Sam Howell a little time in the pocket. That's it.
Yeah. For everyone in the league outside of like Commanders fans and Eagles fans, I'm gonna tell you this right now: do not buy that Sam Howell Commanders shit at all against the Eagles, bro. The Commanders always play the Eagles so hard. They beat the Eagles last year. They broke that win streak. Eagles beat them in overtime earlier this year. And then, up until the fourth quarter, it was pretty much a close game. So the Commanders are just notorious for being, for me, ever since I've been an Eagles fan, I feel like they've been the toughest out for the Eagles in division. It's just always, the Commanders always just the ball just goes their way. They get a big play. Our team just never seems to show up against the Commanders. So that game, take with a grain of salt. Now, if you're a Patriots fan, I wouldn't take it with a grain of salt because I think he's just worse than the Commanders. And what you saw from Sam Howell last week, hopefully he's able to keep it going. And it shouldn't be that hard. The Patriots have a solid defense. Bill Belichick's going to be back there. But, I mean, listen, Mac Jones looked solid against the Dolphins. First couple quarters right before halftime. Showed that turnover, man. That turnover bug crawled right back up. Jalen Ramsey with a nice pick. And listen, Mac Jones just likes to turn the ball over. So I think he has a couple turnovers here. Patriots at home. It'll be a fun environment, maybe if you're a Patriots fan. But yeah, right now, I just think the Commanders, especially with that overhaul, maybe, those guys haven't been the best in the locker room. I don't know. I'm not there. I'm just saying shit at this point. Give me the Commanders. I'm just trying to convince myself. I don't even know. It's Commanders and Patriots, bro. Like
Seahawks.
Like I was saying before, bro. Neither each team fan base is just rooting for the other team to win. Like they just at this point they playing for draft picks.
Not lying about that, man. I mean, next game up, these two teams are competing for playoff spots. Seahawks, they travel to Baltimore to play the Ravens and coming off an AFC North dub last week against the Browns. They're playing another AFC North opponent in the Ravens. Seahawks on the road. I touched on them a little bit earlier, the way they played last week. Ravens, I mean, they've been hot in the league, but they just coming off playing the Cardinals. I think this one, Seahawks get a big road upset. We talked about, I don't know if they won the division or the wild card. But if they're able to pull this one off on the road, man, I think they should, have a legitimate chance to solidify their number one spot in that NFC West Conference. So I think at home, maybe the Ravens get a little comfortable at this point in the season. Seahawks, are they really that good on the road compared to home? I think they get a big dub on the road. Ravens, Gus Edwards had some big game. I think the last 2 weeks. Still not buying in that, Zay Flowers and the Lamar connection. I want to see that consistently. But needless to say, I mean, I think it's going to be a good game. Really could go either way. It's just, you said it last week off air. You said the 50-50 AFC North. I'm going to lean with the opponent. So I might as well just take the Seahawks.
Yeah, a big upset is definitely always going to have to be at the Seahawks win. I think the Ravens, especially at home, we saw what they did to the Lions last time they were at home and pretty much just made a statement to the entire league, in that AFC especially, that they're one of the top teams in the league, and I think they are. As long as Lamar is healthy, the way he's playing right now, he's carrying that Ravens team, man. We're seeing him play up to that former MVP level, but he's a better passer right now. So through the air, he's been able to get it done. Like you mentioned, they got somewhat of a run game. As long as you got Lamar Jackson as your quarterback, the ground game is definitely going to be a threat. So I like the Ravens at home. I think this could be a fun game offensively. Both of these offenses seem to, put up some points. The Seahawks their offense kind of gets going early and then it kind of, die out at the end, like you saw last week with your Browns team. So I think it'll be a fun game, a competitive game. Some of the best teams right now in the league, but I think the Ravens are just a touch better than the Seahawks. So at home, I think they make a statement. They get a nice win.
Side note, somehow it's pouring outside November 1st, like 8 o'clock.
Is that rain? I thought it was just wind.
Nah, I think that's a legit rain. It was sunny all day, nice. Welcome to Florida, I guess. The next one, I don't have much to say with this. Bucks, Texans. We talked about the Texans a lot, especially earlier as well. The Bucks, I don't got anything good to say with them. Give me the Texans at home coming off a horrible loss last week.
Yeah, the only thing positive about the Bucks offense is if Baker Mayfield is throwing the ball 30-plus yards to Mike Evans down the field. Other than that, it's just hard to watch. Texans, on the other hand, a young team on the rise. C.J. Stroud, tough loss against the Panthers, like you mentioned, but that kind of had upset ran all over it. I think the Texans get back on track, and they beat a solid Bucks team considering where the Texans are right now. So, yeah, I like the Texans at home.
Next game up, man. Cardinals travel to Cleveland to play the Browns, man. And, we've talked about it a few times on the pod, man. This is that get-right game. I mean, it's got it written all over it for the Browns. Whether it's P.J. Walker or Deshaun Watson, if they don't come out with the win, you might as well just ship out you asked me Kevin Stefanski in or out, bro. He loses this one, he's out. You can't lose to the one-win Cardinals. Do they have a win?
They do.
They
beat the Cowboys.
They beat the Cowboys. The one-win Cardinals. at home. So just give me the Browns.
Yeah, I don't know if I go as far as say a get right game for the Browns, but this is definitely a game they should win at home. Gardner Minshew's been average at best. I mean, it's what you expect from a backup quarterback, prone to turn the ball over, but
Gardner
offensively.
Minshew. They're playing the Cardinals.
Oh, I'm looking at the Colts right beneath them. I'm tripping. Cardinals,
Yeah, so they
clean
don't have.
soon. Yeah, they're not as good. Yeah,
This
Browns.
has to be a get right game.
But still, I don't think it's a get right. Like, what are the Browns getting right too? Like, they haven't been, great on offense at all this season. So, like, I guess if they want to get on track, get right offensively, they can. But I just think it's going to be a defensive game. Myles Garrett goes off. Maybe a special teams play here or there, like you saw earlier in the season. But, I mean, if there is ever a team to kind of move the ball and put some points on, it'd be the Cardinals. But right now, I just don't see the Browns' offense being there yet, being able to hit that level. I think now they just still, a big defensive team and kind of just relying on that defense in the run game. So I'm going to pick the Browns.
Well, apparently Clay Tune has not been named the starter. He's still, last report 3 hours ago, no starter for the Cardinals just yet. So if K1 wants to make his return against the Browns, I really hope he doesn't, man, because I'm hoping for a get-right game. But anyways, Colts-Panthers is the next game up. Panthers, they got their first dub of the year. It's not like they're tanking either. They don't have a first-round pick. So they're trying to win football games. Needless to say, man, the Colts, played their worst game maybe last week against the Saints. But, that 1-2 punch between Zach Moss and Jonathan Taylor's look real nice. I mean, those guys look beyond track. Good running back room. You mentioned veteran quarterback Gardner Minshew. Can he get it done? It's not like the Panthers' defense excels at anything or even above average in anything almost besides Brian Burns. But J.C. Horn's nice as well. But really nothing to rave about right now for the Panthers. You said it. They just need draft capital. Colts, I mean, they just don't turn the ball over, put up 14 points, and they get a win. So give me the Colts on the road.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Colts here as well. Bryce Young, nice win. First win of his career last week. Always cool to see, but I think the Colts are just a better team overall right now. A little more talent, which also, once again, not saying much, more talent than the Panthers, but yeah, like you mentioned, Gardner Minshew, just protect the ball. They've been able to move the ball through the air, and you mentioned their run game. So I think the Colts cruise to a pretty easy victory here against the Panthers.
Next one, man. The abysmal Giants travel to Vegas to play the possibly even more abysmal Raiders. But they did fire Josh McDaniels today, or yesterday on Halloween. Raiders won their Super Bowl, they were saying. Regardless, the Giants last week choked. I know they had a backup third-string quarterback, at the end of the game, but it's like you had all game. I don't think, whatever his name is, he didn't complete a pass until overtime when they're inside the 10. And the two passes he threw were both the same swing pass to Saquon Barkley to the right side. It clearly was no trust. Danny Dimes should be back this week. Aiden O'Connell is the starter for the Raiders and not Jimmy G. Devontae Adams is going insane. I mean, the headlines just couldn't be worse for this one. It's just two bottom tier. I don't even know how the Giants made the playoffs last year at this point. Just give me the Raiders at home. Josh Jacobs, go crazy or something. I don't know.
Yeah, Giants quarterback last week was Danny DeVito, I believe. I think that's his name.
Yeah, I can look
or
it up
Tommy
real quick.
DeVito, not Danny DeVito. Yeah. Something DeVito, regardless. Nothing too convincing there from the Giants, like you mentioned. Raiders, on the other hand, just fired their head coach and their GM, I believe. So we know how teams that midway during the season get a clean slate, fire, that head coach or whatever. It's like rejoice. It's a weight off their shoulders. They're playing free. I believe Aiden O'Connell will be starting for the Raiders as well. Jimmy G heading to the bench after that performance on Monday night wasn't the best. So at least there's hope for the Raiders now, something that's positive. And at home, I think the Raiders pull off, another miracle, get things going in the right direction. They beat the Giants.
Tommy DeVito.
Tommy DeVito, yeah. Danny DeVito is someone else.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's look that up.
Cowboys, Eagles, finally. I mean, it kind of hurt my brain to see some good football on paper. This one, I mean, NFC East clash up, man. Cowboys, Birds in Philly is going to be crazy. Place Lincoln Financial, is going to be jumping. Cowboys, man, I just don't know if I'm fully sold on the Dak train. Micah, Cowboys defense, what can they do? Jalen Hurts is playing hurt, no pun intended. They got a bye week, I think, next week. So a win this week would be huge, or maybe it's in 2 weeks or bye, but it's coming up. Just give me the Eagles at home. I know you're going to touch on it way more.
Yeah, Jalen Hurts he's fine. He hasn't been on the injury report at all these past couple weeks. He's not limited in practice at all. He's fine. Nothing really serious at all to be worried about. This will definitely be, I think, the toughest game of the year for us. Maybe up there with Dolphins. You could probably say the Dolphins, but I think Cowboys divisional game, it'll be tough. Dak Prescott, I believe this is the first time Dak Prescott and Jalen Hurts have also played against each other. So that'll be a really, really fun storyline to, watch. But I think the Eagles at home are able to do enough. Now, the Cowboys this year, they've been a really good team when they've been ahead and winning games. Not so much when they've been down and, Dak Prescott's back is against the wall. That's kind of, ever since his rookie year, that's kind of been, the story of Dak Prescott. Is he good enough to, come back and win these games when his team doesn't have the lead, when the run game isn't working, when his defense and special teams aren't scoring touchdowns and safety, when he's uncomfortable, how good is he? I think that'll be a big question for the Cowboys this week, whereas Jalen Hurts, on the other hand, when the Eagles are down and they need to play, Jalen Hurts is the best version of himself. That's when he comes up. That's when he plays the best football. So it'll be a tough matchup against this Cowboys defense, but I think if the Eagles and Jalen Hurts are able to protect the ball, which he has been better with as of late these past couple of weeks, and able to get a lead against this Cowboys team, that's ultimately going to be the recipe for success for this Eagles team. And, I mean, I could definitely see this being a series that the Eagles and Cowboys split at home, kind of like last year. But I think it'll be more interesting because both quarterbacks hopefully will be playing in both games. But I think the Eagles are the better team right now. Like I mentioned, they just got to get out to an early lead, get the run game going. Deron Bland, I know that young guy for the Cowboys, couple pick sixes. He's, all the hype right now for the Cowboys. Well, he's going to have to be guarding A.J. Brown this week. And ask the past 6 teams that have tried to guard him, who he's put 125-plus yards up on, not that easy to cover A.J. Brown. And if somehow they are able to take him away, we still got Devontae Smith, who's coming along, had a really nice game last week. He finally got in the end zone and I think had 99 receiving yards. Dallas Goedert, he's coming along nicely as well. He's involved. So everything's just clicking right now for the Eagles offense defensively. You want to see that pass rush get going. Hassan Reddick has kind of been the only one, along with Josh Sweat, making big plays. Jalen Carter got banged up. He was a full participant in practice. Should be good to go this Sunday, so that's a big help. Just got to hold up long enough, and not rely on that secondary to make big plays because James Bradbury didn't have his best game. Reed Blankenship had a pick to kind of save his day last week on the back end. A lot of young guys out there playing, so you want to see the secondary come along better. The front seven is definitely going to have to stand strong, make some big plays for us. And I think if we're able to go out, get a lead early, make the Cowboys uncomfortable, make Dak Prescott have to play from behind, we'll be good. Should be a win.
Next game up, man. I don't know how they made this game primetime Sunday night. Bills-Bengals. Um, Bills on the road against the Bengals, 50-50. I mean, the Bills are starting to turn their season around a little bit, starting to get the offense clicking, maybe just a little bit, but Josh Allen, Gabe Davis, they were connecting last week, man. I told you. On Thursday Night Football, usually not high scoring. The Bengals, man, we touched on them earlier. I just don't think they got enough defense to stop the Bills, and think the Bills in the pass rush, which I think is finally healthy, they get a couple big sacks on Joe Burrow, maybe force a fumble, create a little pressure. And that one play, I think, is what's going to win it. It's going to be a tight one. It's going to be a good one Sunday night. We finally get some good football. At least it's on prime time.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of go on the opposite of you, and I think the Bengals are really just coming on strong. Joe Burrow, another week fully healthy, and you mentioned this Bill offense. They can kind of make some plays if it's, Stephon Diggs. Gabe Davis had his big week that we always talked about. He's going to be super big one week, and then you just don't know where he's at next week. So it'd be nice to see if the Bills keep him going. I believe they also brought in Leonard Fournette. I'm not sure if that's official, but I did see reports saying that he was expected to sign there. So another addition in the running back room. The Bills, I think, are they're a solid team. Josh Allen always will give them a chance to win. I just think Joe Burrow and this Bengals team is getting hot, and I don't know if there's in the AFC, I'd want to play the Bengals at all right now, especially Joe Burrow. He's looking to be fully healthy. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, those guys on the outside are some of the best, if not the best receiver duo. I would say they're second behind the Eagles, but that's another conversation, neither here nor there. And Tyler Boyd finding the end zone as well. So Joe Mixon can get a couple nice carries here or there. Joe Burrow continues to play healthy, great football like he did against the 49ers. I just think this Bengals offense can be a little too much for the Bills. Defense is super banged up. Trey White, like you mentioned earlier, he's out. Matt Milano, star middle linebacker for them, he's out for the season. A lot of question marks for that Bills defense, and I think Joe Burrow and this Bengals offense will be able to take advantage of that. They have no trouble moving the ball and scoring points. So I'm going to take the Bengals here at home.
Monday Night Football, man. Chargers travel to MetLife and play the Jets. And honestly, I think this game's going to come down to a fourth down, maybe a 10-10 ball game in Brandon Staley's own territory. He goes for it, gives Zach Wilson a short field, and the Jets score a touchdown, and Herbert can't get him back in the end zone with sub a minute left. It's going to be one of those plays, or maybe midfield. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Tie game, he goes for it at midfield. Yeah, just give me the Jets, man. They pulled off, an amazing comeback last week. I know it was a tough game, but Zach Wilson made a couple big throws down there late. Playmakers made some plays. They get a dub. I mean, the Chargers are fine. They don't find ways to win. They find ways to lose. And against this Jets defense, I think it happens again.
Yeah, unlike the last pick, I'm exactly with you on this one. Same exact mindset. The Chargers are the better team. Justin Herbert's the better quarterback. I like the weapons and they have on offense. Austin Eckler looked like himself again, got going last week. But you mentioned they find ways to lose games, man. And this is just defense, one of the best defenses in the league right now. The way they're playing and the way Brandon Staley coaches is just a recipe for disaster for this Chargers team. So like you mentioned, one bad play call here or there could easily end up being a turnover, not making it on fourth down, a pick, a fumble, something like that. Good defenses make bad offenses and bad coaches pay. So I think the Jets, like you mentioned, late in the game, get one or two big stops, and that ends up being a game. Zach Wilson has to do nothing but manage the game.
Well, I think it was the Raiders-Chargers, that game, earlier in the year, where I said both coaches wanted to, one of them's finally gone in Josh McDaniel, one of them's not in Brandon Staley. And, I mean, that was the worst coach football game I've ever seen in my life. Like, the fact that it's still on my mind, Aiden O'Connell, the rookie, was throwing a rollout pass in their own red zone when you had the NFL's leading rusher on your team. Anyways, bro, but Brandon Staley found a way to, I think, get out-coached almost. But I think the Chargers won. But, hey, what do I know about football? That's going to wrap up our Week 9 pick'ems, man. Needless to say, I got some ground to cover, 5 games back from you in the pick'ems record for the year. I think I'm doing better than I was last year. I mean, we could go sheet 1, see what I was looking like. And
I forgot what week it was, but there was one
there
week
was
that
one
just
week,
killed you, bro.
Oh, it was week 6, 3-11.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I think week 9, you had a 10-game lead on my ass. So, I mean, hey, whatever. Any last comments? Anything? Topics?
Nah, that's pretty much it. Big game for the Eagles, man.
Big game for the Eagles for sure, man. That's going to wrap up Go to Go, man. Go to Go pod on TikTok. Like, comment, share. Go to Go. YouTube. Like, comment, sub. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, any streaming site where you listen to podcasts, man. Go to Go. And week 9 of the NFL season is upon us. And until next week, man, peace.